Alright everybody, hello. Look who's come to join us for this video today. Yeah. So, I figured I would do a vlog style video this week. And actually this is like the worst room to do it in because the lighting makes everything look really grainy. Hey, get away from the microphone. And, Superwrench Garage gifted me his old microphone. So we're testing that out today too, and Coda just wants to sniff it. She moved it. No, stop. You're gonna make the audio all messed up if you keep sniffing it. You wanna lay down? Yeah. There's my laptop. So I figured what we would do is we would vlog, of course, that's what we're doing here. And stop. And we would go over Huntingtons again. So, let me bring it up here. What I'm doing is I'm typing in Huntington's disease into Google. I'm scrolling down to the site that says Mayo Clinic. And, the overview, the short version of it is it's a really rare genetic disease. My grandmother had it, my mother has it, I have the gene for it. Those are all the documented ones. The not documented ones are my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother. You can't see my hand doing the list. I believe my great-aunt, and I think there's a great-uncle. I'm not quite sure about that. Most of the stories that get told, because it's so close to me, is grandma, great-grandma, great-great-grandma, mom. Now, my grandmother, she had the tremors, she had the trouble swallowing, she had the speech problems. She, from what I'm aware of, she didn't really have any of the memory. Well, she had some of the memory stuff, but she was there. She knew what was going on. She knew what she wanted. If she was hungry, she knew she was hungry. If she was tired, she knew that she was tired. If she wanted to communicate something, my grandfather and her came up with a communication system where she could say yes, no, something else, and it's something that I enjoy hearing about when I talk to my grandfather. Like, my birthday was a week or 2 weeks ago, and his birthday is the same as mine, and we were on the phone for I think an hour and a half, and he was telling me stories about grandma and how he coped with her. Not he coped with her, but she coped with everything going on. She was one of the strongest women I ever knew. And mom has her own coping mechanisms too. She's got the tremors in her feet. She has the memory stuff. I don't remember the technical words for it. She walks with one of those, those hiking sticks, the pole stuff, the pole things that people use when they're hiking. She uses one of those, and it's like she's a tripod. It's her third leg balance type system. And we all had depression, anxiety, all that. I think my repeats are 40 repeats. And repeats is how many times the gene repeats in your gene sequence. If you're above a certain number of repeats, then you're a carrier. And if you're above that carrier window, you're going to have symptoms at some point in your life. They may be major symptoms, they may be minor symptoms. They don't really quite understand all of that. They have a baseline of what the most likely time is that you'll start showing symptoms. And I think for me, it's late 30s, early 40s. But that doesn't mean that your symptoms are going to be bad. So let's go over the symptoms. Let me scroll down a little bit just to remind myself. The symptoms of the movement disorders for Huntington's chorea, which is I believe what my family has, is involuntary jerking or writhing movements, kind of like most commonly known as Parkinson's. There's also dystonia, which is muscle problems such as rigidity or muscle contracture, which basically means that your muscles are stiff. It's kind of like a car without power steering. It's really hard to move the wheel. It's really hard to move your muscles. At least that's my understanding of it. I'm not a doctor. Slower abnormal eye movements, impaired gait, posture, and balance, and difficulty with speech or swallowing. My grandmother had involuntary jerking, writhing, or movements, impaired gait and posture and balance with the involuntary movements as far as I'm aware, and she had the difficulty with the speech and the swallowing. Now, the cognitive disorders are more what I'm seeing, but that's also because I was in a car accident with a head injury, and that's difficulty organizing, prioritizing, and focusing on task, which also comes with my ADHD. Lack of flexibility, or the tendency to get stuck on a thought, behavior, or action. In the last year, I've had to retrain my brain that just because it's not the way I do something doesn't mean it's the wrong way. I've started having to accept, because it is better for the people around me, that my way is not the highway. The way I do something doesn't mean that's the way that everybody has to do it. It means that I get from point A to point B by making 2 left turns and a right. Somebody else might get from point A to point B by going straight, making a left and a right, or a right and a left. No, that's you get what I mean. It's some people get there in a circle. Anyway, lack of impulse control that can result in outburst, acting without thinking, and sexual promiscuity. Let the phone focus. That word. I can't pronounce that word for some reason. Lack of awareness of one's own behaviors and abilities. Because of this one, I try to make the people around me tell me when I'm being stupid. But I'm also always thinking I'm being stupid, so the people around me also then have to tell me that I'm not being stupid, that my thoughts, feelings, and emotions are valid. Slowness in processing thoughts or finding words. I couldn't think of the word quesadilla this morning. I can't think of words all the time. I can't think of names. I can't think of dates. I can't. But that could also just be me. That doesn't mean that I'm having the symptoms of the Huntingtons. But it could. Difficulty learning new information. I don't see this one as much because ever since I was a kid, if I can watch it, I can do it. Psychiatric disorders. Feelings of irritability, sadness, or apathy, social withdrawal, insomnia, fatigue and loss of energy, frequent thoughts of death, dying, or suicide. I've had those since I was a kid. There's nothing I can really change about that. Other common psychiatric disorders include obsessive compulsive disorder. I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive personality disorder when my anxiety is high. I end up with OCD-like traits. I like things to be in their place all the time, and I am the most unorganized person I know, so I don't really know how that works. Mania, which, if you don't know what that is, it causes elevated mood, overactivity, impulsive behavior, and inflated self-esteem. And bipolar disorder, which most people know what that is. There's also juvenile Huntington's disease. If you want me to go through that, leave a comment. I'll do another video on that. A lot of times they don't suggest getting tested or seeing a doctor until you have symptoms, because then you're worrying unnecessarily about when you're going to present symptoms and things along those lines. But I wanted to get tested because I wanted to know. I wanted to be able to plan. I wanted to know that I would have to make certain adjustments to the house that I'm going to live in forever, and to look for things in the way I'm thinking, in the way I'm feeling, to say, okay, I understand this, but was it really situationally appropriate? There are a lot of times when I'll look at Zach and say, I got really worked up over nothing. But I think a lot of that comes with my anxiety. Like I said, I'm diagnosed as asymptomatic. I don't know if I said that, but I did now if I haven't. So word finding issues from the car accident. I'm asymptomatic right now. My appointment is at the end of this month to get reevaluated for the next year. I go every year. It's like a 3-hour appointment. They have me do walking exercises, reading exercises, memory exercises. They reevaluate my mental health. They draw like 3 tubes of blood. So I don't remember exactly why they do that. You don't have to do it every year, but you can choose to, which I told them that I probably would. But it all goes into a database, and the database is international. And once you go into that database, depending on what they find that year, like if there's asymptomatic clinical trials, then they'll sign me up for that. If there's symptomatic clinical trials, my mother would get signed up for those. I'm through Johns Hopkins. My grandmother was through Hershey Medical Center in Hershey, Pennsylvania. My mom's through Johns Hopkins. I'm not sure where the rest of my family's through, or if they're going through anywhere. But yeah, that's my Huntington's experience so far. Don't like to get too in-depth about it, because there were a lot of things that growing up I didn't understand, because Huntington's was so rare. Oh, you can't have that. There's no history of it in your family. It wasn't my grandmother really had to advocate for herself, and then when she couldn't anymore, my stepdad, my mom, my aunt, and my grandfather all advocated for her beautifully. When my grandmother went into the hospital for the last time, the nurses and the doctors were all like, we've never seen a family be all on the same page and cooperate. And the fact that my grandmother, before she got bad, made it known what she wanted, how she wanted it, why she wanted it. They talked about the hard stuff to talk about, the end of life stuff, the stuff that you don't want to discuss. It was just a great experience all around, not just for the doctors and for the nurses, but my family knew that they were doing what my grandmother wanted. And I'm trying to communicate that to the people around me, that I think are going to be there for a very long time, like Zach, and like my mom and my sisters and my brother. And it's just important. It's important to have those conversations, because you never know. You never know when someone's not gonna have a voice anymore. And this got really deep. Wasn't planning to be very deep. But anyway, Cody's doing okay. She's over here cleaning her paws, chewing on herself. Gooper. So that's my vlog this week. And I hope the mic turned out good, without too much background noise, like me itching and Coda chewing on her paw. And can you stop trying to eat my finger? It's not your finger, it's mine. But I hope you guys have a good week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye!